and thank you everyone for attending. Here at aTyr, we have a new area of biology that we're working on. And before we begin, I just want to say there's three things I'd really like you guys to be able to take away from here is that we've got this new platform, a disruptive type of platform. We've got a multi-billion-dollar product opportunity where we hardly have any competition, and we have $106 million in cash. So thank you. We've got all the winning things that you need for a biotech company, hopefully. Of course, take a look at our forward-looking statements and look in our SEC documents for a list of all of the risks associated with this. But going into those three pillars here, so at aTyr, we're translating tRNA synthetases into new therapies. We're focusing on fibrosis and inflammation. I won't get too deep into the science with regards to tRNA synthetases, but this is a new disruptive type of platform that was discovered by our founder, Dr. Paul Schimmel. Paul has founded companies such as Alnylam, Alkermes, Cubist, but this is his passion. He found that these tRNA synthetases migrate out of cells. There's 20 of them, and basically when they do migrate out of the cells, they create a homeostasis within your body with the immune system. We own this platform as well. There are a couple other tRNA synthetase companies, but we have over 200 patents for all of the tRNA synthetase segments, and we own it all. So one of the 20 is called HARS, and we've developed our lead candidate, efzofitimod, based off of that tRNA synthetase. We have a phase 3 trial in pulmonary sarcoidosis. That is an interstitial lung disease, and where the lungs have a lot of inflammation in it, which eventually leads to fibrosis. And then we have a phase 2 trial in another interstitial lung disease called EFZO-CONNECT. That's in scleroderma-related ILD. Between these two indications, it's a $2 to $3 billion market opportunity. But what makes us the most excited is the phase 3 trial. It's the first phase 3 trial that's ever been done in pulmonary sarcoidosis. There's little competition. There's no approved drugs for pulmonary sarcoidosis. And the people that are doing clinical trials in this indication, they're way behind us. So we're pretty excited about the opportunity for efzofitimod. I'll just call it efzo from now on. And then the third pillar is that we've got cash. We've got a strong balance sheet. We've got quality investors. Federated and Fidelity both always invest up to their caps of 19.9 and 14.9% ownership. We've got a $175 million partnership for efzofitimod in Japan, only in interstitial lung diseases. We've unlocked $20 million of that $175 million already. So there's another $155 million that we can potentially get out of this partnership along with royalties. Our cash of $106 million also gets us through the regulatory filing for efzofitimod should the results be good. So we've got a great base of a company, so I'll get into more of our pipeline first and then really delve into specifically efzofitimod. So here you can see efzofitimod obviously is the farthest along with the phase 3 and the phase 2. For both of these indications, we have orphan drug designation in the US and in Europe. We also have fast track approval for both of those. And it's ready to go into other interstitial lung diseases. We can go straight into a phase 2 and other connective tissue disease, ILDs, as well as CHP. Of those 20 tRNA synthetases, we continue to look at the other 19 for other product candidates. Given the market and our cash, we're really focusing all of our resources on efzofitimod, but we have found the target mechanism of action for two of those, aTyr0101 and aTyr0750. Once we find those receptors or those targets, such as NRP2 for efzofitimod, we have also been able to make antibodies to those targets, and we've developed a kind of a sub-platform there with 2810 and 4010, which are different NRP2 antibodies. Again, our focus is on efzofitimod, so I'll go into these trials. Efzofitimod is a Fc fusion protein. I won't get deep into the science, but what we found with this new area of biology, it was very important to find what the receptor is. So we screened over 4,000, 5,000 receptors and found that efzofitimod selectively binds to something called NRP2 or neuropilin-2. Through that connection that efzofitimod has to NRP2, it's able to down-regulate the inflammation. We did multiple animal studies in interstitial lung disease-related animal models, and we found that efzofitimod works very well when that NRP2 is expressed during the inflammation. So we feel really comfortable with the mechanism of action. It's a once-a-month IV infusion. And we have a phase 2 trial in pulmonary sarcoidosis patient that has given us a proof of concept. So just with a graphical kind of cartoon thing, this shows you how we believe the mechanism of action works. This is our hypothesis. You have some type of trigger within your lung that creates this inflammation. When the lung is inflamed, NRP2 is upregulated, and we've seen this in lung tissue with the NRP2 being upregulated. That lung is continually, or the immune system is continually trying to fight that infection. It can't, and so eventually it leads to fibrosis that kind of just, builds up over that infection. What efzofitimod does is, like I was saying, it attaches directly to NRP2. It downregulates that inflammation and resolves it without any immune suppression. So our goal is to restore the immune balance, which again is Dr. Paul Schimmel's hypothesis, is that these tRNA synthetase fragments that go outside the cell, they regulate your immune system, and then prevent any progression, in this instance, to fibrosis of the lung. So here's some of the main types of interstitial lung diseases you'll see on this slide. There's over 200 types of interstitial lung diseases. For instance, you guys have heard of vaping. There's vaping-related lung disease that some of the kids get from vaping. That's why they've taken some of the flavored tobaccos off. The 9/11 workers, a lot of them developed sarcoidosis. So there's all sorts of different types of interstitial lung diseases, but the ones on the left are the most inflammatory, and that's where we're starting. That's where we believe our mechanism of action really works. There's not a lot of approved drugs in these areas either. There are in the fibrotic types of interstitial lung disease, like IPF. There's 2 drugs approved there that bring in about $3 billion. But again, we're focused on sarcoidosis and scleroderma ILD, which we believe is a $2 to $3 billion market opportunity just in those 2. So starting off with pulmonary sarcoidosis, it's in 200,000 patients in the US, 1 million globally. These patients, some of them do self-resolve. About half of them self-resolve. The other half progressively become more inflamed and lead to fibrosis. That is the patient population that we're targeting. There is no approved, there is one approved therapy that was approved like 30 or 40 years ago that nobody uses. So So technically there is one, but there are no approved therapies that are used. Everything is used off-label, and these patients are primarily treated with steroids. And they're treated with steroids every day. So they're taking anywhere from 5 to 25, say, milligrams of steroids a day. And that is very toxic to your body as those steroids build up day after day, month after month, year after year. So it's a very unmet need. We want to position this as a first-line steroid-sparing agent. And that's when we first got all of the docs together and we asked them, what is it that you want to see? That's exactly what they wanted to see. They said, we just want to get our patients off of steroids. So we did a phase 2 trial that read out in late 21, getting my years mixed up. In late 21, it was a 37-patient trial, placebo-controlled, multiple dose. We dosed 1 mg, 3 mg, and 5 mg. And what we saw was a dose response in all of the secondary endpoints, all the efficacy endpoints that we were looking at. So we saw that it was steroid sparing, and you can see that from each of these graphs here. We saw that it improved lung function, and we also saw that it improved symptom control. So we were very excited to basically see this across the board in all of those efficacy endpoints, but we also saw dose dependency with the biomarkers for inflammation and sarcoidosis. So based upon this trial, and we in this trial, the trial design was we took the patients off of steroids or down to 5 milligrams. There were a few PIs that came to us and they said, hey, our patients are doing really good. We want to take them completely off of steroids. So we amended the protocol and we allowed them to take them off of steroids. The only 3 people that were able to get off of steroids were in the 5 mg arm. So we took all of those lessons and we developed the phase 3 trial. This is in 264 patients. We're using the top 2 doses, the 3 mg and the 5 mg, compared to placebo. Again, it's a blinded trial. And what we're doing here, the last trial was 6 months. And we saw that some patients could get off of steroids, but their cough worsened, their shortness of breath worsened. What we did then was we took this trial and we made it longer. So we made it for a year. So even our hypothesis is those patients that are able to get down, that are on placebo, get off of steroids, they won't be able to last for very long because they'll keep coughing. And there's a specific protocol where the physician has to rescue them and put them back on steroids if those symptoms get really bad. So we take them completely off of steroids rather than going down to only 5 mgs by week 12. And then starting at week 12, at the end of that taper, until week 48, we're measuring the amount of steroids that they're on. So our primary endpoint is that change in daily steroid dose. That's our primary endpoint. We went to the agency, we had an end of phase 2 meeting, and we went to them with all of the data from the phase 2, the steroid sparing, the lung function, as well as the patient-reported outcomes, and agreed that this should be the primary endpoint. We're also looking, though, at the lung function as well as symptom control. For our phase 2 trial, so we had started this trial in sarcoidosis. We had some of our investors and other people, some of the PIs that work together with the docs from sarcoidosis, come to us and say, why don't you do it in scleroderma ILD as well? So we raised a little bit more money. We started this trial this year. We dosed our first patient. And scleroderma ILD, so most people know about scleroderma, but they don't realize that 25 to 30% of those patients develop it in the lung as well. So this is what we're trying to treat. Our animal models, though, also showed efficacy in actual skin lesions. So we haven't got into the trial design yet, but we're looking at the lung, but we're also looking at the skin. So we're positioning, there's a couple approved drugs here. We're positioning this as a second line in patients that aren't controlled by those approved drugs. So the trial design is 3 arms, efzofitimod at 450 milligrams, which basically mimics the 5 mg in the sarcoidosis trial, 270 mg, which mimics the 3 mg, and placebo. It's a 6-month study in 25 patients. And what we're looking at here, they're not on steroids, so we're not doing a steroid taper. Here we're looking at lung function. We're also looking at the patient-reported outcomes as well. So the value proposition for efzofitimod is the first 2 bullets here basically are around the mechanism of action. We understand how it works through all the animal models that we've done. We understand it binds to NRP2 and drives down that inflammation. We know that it has robust efficacy with improving the lung function, improving cough, shortness of breath, and we have had no safety issues at all. There wasn't much time to go into the pipeline, so I'll just wrap it up here and summarize. We have this disruptive platform that we own. We own all the IP around it. Dr. Paul Schimmel discovered this just like he discovered a lot of other multi-billion-dollar companies. He comes into the office now 2 or 3 times a day to work with a research team. He's pretty excited. We have a $2 to $3 billion market opportunity with the drug that we have in a phase 3 registrational trial. We expect to enroll that last patient early Q2 of next year. We just gave guidance on that. It is a year-long study, so we're looking at data in 2025. And then we have a great financial position. We've got great investors. We have no debt on the balance sheet. We have $106 million in cash as of the end of September 30th, and a great partnership with Kirin in Japan. So I'll conclude the presentation.
Thank you, I appreciate it indeed. That was a very good presentation. Thank you. Let's open up for Q&A. I'll ask the first one, then open up to the audience. You talked about potential upside, at least one of the slides did, about upside in other autoimmune disorders like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis. Would you expect longer term to go it alone, or would you look to partner those type of arrangements? Since your focus is on pulmonary.
Right. If somebody wanted to start that now, we would definitely want to partner that, just given the amount of resources. But for pulmonary sarcoidosis, our plan is to commercialize that ourselves in the U.S. and most likely partner it outside of the U.S.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Question?
I had a question regarding asthma, which is also pulmonary inflammation. Is that something that can be modified for that? Because that's an enormous market.
Yeah, it potentially could. And again, kind of going back to your question, if that would be something that at this point in time we would need to partner with. But there's also, you see NRP2 expression in other diseases. So that there is definitely the ability to potentially expand efzofitimod beyond just the interstitial lung diseases that we're looking at.
Other questions? Yes.
From an investment standpoint, timing. I mean, your stock's down quite a bit this year, last year, but again, almost every biotech stock has been killed.
Right.
And you obviously have a lot of cash, but from a timing standpoint, phase 3, and then how long after that, in terms of it from an investment standpoint, as we think about what you're looking at in terms of a realistic time frame,
Right.
really knowing kind of where you're at.
So we expect to have our last patient in early Q2 of next year. The readout is at 48 weeks after that last patient is in, right? We've been dosing since our first patient was dosed at the end of 2022. So that 264th patient, after that last patient is in, or whatever number that is, we have to wait 1 year after that. So you're looking at basically around, and we haven't given guidance, but around that same timeframe a year later, so Q2-ish, say, of 2025. And then the BLA filing, we do have fast track, we might go for breakthrough as well. That could speed things up a little bit with the timing. But from a return for investors is when that data comes out. Yeah. And we expect, I mean, you never know, particularly in these markets, but once that last patient is in, we can set those timeframes a lot cleaner, a lot tighter. But you would think that there should start to be some stock appreciation after that.
Please.
I was just going to say, what you call it, I'm a little familiar with sarcoidosis. Unfortunately, somebody I know had it. And for some reason, there's some misdiagnosis in the provider community. Sometimes you have to go to a pulmonary doctor. Sometimes you have to go to a primary care. Are you going to focus on any education for the
Definitely,
providers here?
definitely. Our Director of Investor Relations is here, Ashley Dunstan, and she's been doing a lot of patient outreach with the clinical team. I mean, we're doing that now. There is a true need for education in this field. Yeah, and
Even just to enroll this study, there's been a lot of provider education that is
Right.
going to take place. As Jill mentioned, it's the first phase 3 study in sarcoidosis ever, so we've been doing that, all along.
Other questions? I have another one, if you don't mind. As far as post-COVID, how difficult has patient enrollment been, particularly for trials like this where patients are already compromised to a great extent?
So I'm glad you asked that question because, I mean, yeah, of course, everybody had a hard time. We had a patient during COVID fly from Alaska out to, what was the site she flew to? Denver, to get treated for 6 months. So, and there was probably like a qualification. So she probably flew 7 times, 8 times, right? During COVID, that's how bad this disease can be. She was on a plane by herself a couple times. So,
Very difficult. Well, it's probably worth it to her to make that trek.
Exactly.
Obviously. All right, I appreciate your time. There is a breakout session, as we said earlier, outside these doors with the company. If you wish to follow up with them, please take advantage of the opportunity. I want to thank you, Jill, again for the presentation. It was fabulous. And thank you for attending, and have a great day.
With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple, then ChannelCheck truly is your trade. It's an investor community where you can access independent Wall Street research, advanced market data, balanced news, corporate videos, and podcasts. You can even register to attend in-person Meet the Management Series luncheons, and to be part of the preeminent annual Small and Microcap Investor Conference, NobleCon. And here's the best news. Since ChannelCheck is sponsored by the featured companies, premium membership requires no investment. It's absolutely free. So check it out. Log in today. Find out why ChannelCheck is North America's leading source of research on the companies that just may change the world.